Hello and welcome to the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. Whether you can't get out of bed in the morning, your energy crashes throughout the day, or you're a biohacker looking to optimize your energy, productivity, and focus, this podcast is for you. I am Dr. Evan Hirsch, and I will be your host on your journey to resolving fatigue and optimizing your energy. And we'll be interviewing some of the top leaders in the world on fatigue resolution. Welcome. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fix Your Fatigue podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining me here today, because today we're going to be talking about relationships and stress with my friend, Dr. Sarah. So Dr. Sarah Rattray, leading couples psychologist, is founder and CEO of the Couples Communication Institute, which is dedicated to helping couples achieve lasting closeness and intimacy through effective communication. For over 30 years, she's helped couples get closer and more connected by strengthening their communication. She's known for her wise, grounded, caring energy and for providing clear, practical steps couples can take right away to improve the way they talk with each other. She now makes her proven methods easily accessible online, and I'm excited to talk about that as well, to assist couples to get on the same page with parenting, health goals, asking for what they need, and discussing areas of disagreement. Dr. Sarah, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Evan. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. So such an important part of healing for all the people who are listening who have chronic fatigue and other issues is to get into a parasympathetic state, to get into a state that is more healing, more relaxing, that affects every single aspect of the body. And so one of the things that's incredibly stressful for people, I know myself included, can be relationships. So I'm really excited that we're going to be talking about this today. So let's kind of start off with stress and relationships. What is the relationship between stress and relationships, or how does stress play a role?
Yeah, well, I am thrilled that what you teach all the time is getting into the parasympathetic state, because in a relationship, when we're in the sympathetic state, when we're in fight or flight, we perceive our partner as a danger to us. We perceive our partner as threatening. And as you and your audience, I'm sure you teach about this all the time, in fight or flight, in the sympathetic state, you have to protect yourself. Your body is telling you the world is dangerous right now. So it's an ongoing interaction between stress and your relationship. So if you're stressed and your partner comes and talks to you, you're likely to feel threatened or startled or surprised, on edge. You're more likely to, want to defend yourself out of the blue, or perhaps kind of attack in one way or another. So that feeds to relationship stress when your body is stressed. But also when you're unable to communicate in your relationship, just trying to talk with each other, when that's a struggle and when that's draining your energy, that can push you back into the sympathetic state. Mm-hmm. If you were, perhaps luckily, with a lot of hard work in that resting parasympathetic state.
Mm-hmm. So then how do we get into that correct state? Like, let's say we have a contentious relationship or we're not communicating well. What do we need to do in order to move back into a healthy, and I know that's probably a big question, so you can tackle just a little bit of that if you want, but how do we get back into that appropriate state?
So there's at least a couple of really important parts. One is, if you're actively in an escalating conflict, if right now, in a moment, you and your partner are going at it, the very best thing to do, if you at all can find the words, is to say, I need to take a break, and leave the conversation, leave the escalating conflict, go in the other room and do a relaxation activity for 15 or 20 minutes. So I'm not going to go into that any further because I'm assuming, since this is your specialty, that people know the relaxing activities that work best for them. What I want to highlight is that research shows it takes about 20 minutes for all the metabolites of those sympathetic hormones to get cleared out enough all the way from your system so that you aren't going to bounce right back into fight or flight, into that escalating conflict. So it doesn't mean go away and have a 5-minute, calm down period. Take more time than that to relax. So that's if you're in a conflict at the moment. But I want to put that aside and spend a little more time talking about how you can take the lead in creating a safer environment with you and your partner. So I want to go into that, unless you have any other questions so far.
No, that's perfect.
So, as we've already said, if you or your partner are in that sympathetic state, you will be perceiving the other person as a threat. And that's what you want to take the lead in avoiding from the very outset. So when I say the very outset, I'm sure that you've experienced this. If I'm sitting here and I'm working away on my computer, maybe I'm working on my courses, and someone says, maybe my daughter says, "Mom," or, someone comes in the room and they just start talking to me. Likely, I'm going to be startled, right? So I'm working, I'm focusing, someone interrupts me, I'm startled. What does that mean? I'm probably a little bit irritated. Do I feel calm? Do I feel open? Probably not. So from the very first moment, if you want to talk to your partner, anything, if you want to say, "Hey, did you see what's on the news?" Or if you want to say, "Can we talk?" I recommend you take a moment and think to yourself, okay, what is it that I want to say? And you think through beforehand what you want to say, what you want to ask for, and you get it ready in your head. And I go into that a lot more with couples. But now here's what I really want to share with your audience. When you want to talk to your partner, your family member, your colleague, your loved one, if you're in the same physical space, go to where they are in your house. Go to the room that they're in. Don't call to them from the other room because you don't know what they're doing. So you go in the room and look at them and see, what are they doing? Does it look like it's possible that you might be able to say something and interrupt them? So if I'm sitting there like this and you can see that my forehead is doing this and my fingers are doing this, I'm busy. I'm focused. You can see that. So this is not a good moment, but if I'm sitting there, or, maybe you can see I'm reading the New York Times, or I don't know what, you might think, I think there's a good chance that you could say something. So that's the first thing. Go in the room where they are, look at them, and assess, do I think this is a good moment to say something? If not, come back later. If it is a good moment, I recommend very, very simply saying their name. So if I go in the room and I look at you, I might say, "Hey, Evan," and I'm going to wait. Do you look up at me and smile? Do you say, "Yeah, Sarah"? What happens if I say, "Hey, Evan," and there's no change? Maybe you're doing what you're doing or you're looking away. I don't know. Do you have, earbuds in that I can't see? I don't know. Maybe you're, planning your next way to help more people fix their fatigue. I don't know. But if I say, "Hey, Evan," maybe you'll say, "Yes, Sarah." Yay. Now I'm going to say, "Do you have a moment?" So what I'm outlining so far, these things are safe. These things help us both feel calm. We're both in control. Neither of us is feeling startled or threatened. So, but, and, you know, as I think I said, hopefully I said, I'm going to say your name gently. I'm not going to say, Evan, you know, hey, Evan. So if you say, yes, Sarah, or you look up and smile, I'm going to say, do you have a moment? Now, if you don't have a moment, here's something to do for you to help things stay in that calm, parasympathetic, open place. Say to me something like, I would love to talk with you, Sarah, but at the moment, I'm in the middle of something. How about, can we talk in 10 minutes? Or how about after dinner? Or something like that. But if you do have time, then say yes. So that, even that very simple tip is a way to start out and take the lead to create a feeling of safety and calm between us. There's no startling, there's nothing threatening. We're not irritated or annoyed from the outset. Excuse me a sec.
I love that. That's so good, and it's something that I work on in my relationships. With my wife, I actually come to her office, and if she has the door closed, she's got a sliding door. It's right off of our bedroom. She's got if the door is open, then I just stand there. And so if she responds, you know, I can see if she's on the phone or something like that. If she responds, then I can engage her. And then likewise, they'll open the door, and they won't know whether or not, I mean, I've got something hanging on the door now that says, you know, do not interrupt or be mindful, where they can open the door a little bit and see if I'm engaged. And if I am, then they know that they can just close the door. But it seems like you have to have an agreement around this, where it has to be okay for the person who is being asked to say that they're not available. Because I know for me, just thinking about that, I'm like, I know that I feel guilty if I've got a loved one who's coming to me who wants my attention, and I'm not available. So there's some psychology there that I'm working on. But so it seems like you got to set the ground rules, and it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that, like take us through that. Is there something there around that?
Yes. Well, you just brought up so many little subjects in there. So I do want to say, you know, that tip where I said, if you can't talk, if you start out by saying, you know, if you're talking to me, Sarah, I would love to talk to you, but I can't right now. That makes me feel cared for by you. That makes me feel like you welcome me. So I totally get the guilt part, but that's a really nice way to start out, by saying, you are a priority. I like you. I welcome you. I'm not running away from this. I just can't at this moment. So when you're asking, you know, this takes some kind of agreement or buy-in. Yes. And we have to get to a conversation about that buy-in. So even in order, that's why I'm really emphasizing taking the lead in the beginning, that if I want to come to you, if we haven't done this yet, you know, before you and your wife established the open door or the sign, someone had to bring it up. So to start out any conversation, this is how I'm recommending we start, you know, just getting someone's attention in a safe way. And then what you do is, you've already thought about it. Okay, so let me say, Evan, you said to me, don't you need buy-in? So every time we have a conversation or think about having a conversation, we're going to have a thought like that. Yeah, but we don't have buy-in. Okay, so why don't we move buy-in to an earlier conversation? Whatever I wanted to talk about, I guess we're not ready yet. Let's talk about buy-in first. And then if I said, okay, let's have a conversation about buy-in. If you said, yeah, but what about this other piece? Okay, well then let's do that first. So you really want to think about it. And let's say you want to have a conversation about getting buy-in about, how to let each other know when you're available to talk. Remember I said a few minutes ago, before you ever say anything, think to yourself, what do I want to talk about? So let's say that's it. I want to talk about how to get each other's attention, how to get buy-in about we're both doing it this way. It's fine to say we're busy because we're going to follow up, that type of thing. So that's the topic. Mm-hmm. And I recommend you make it very narrow. Just pick one thing. So we don't want to say, let's have a conversation about how we talk in our relationship. That's huge. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how to ask to have a conversation and what to do if we're busy. Okay, that's one thing. You think about how you feel about it. You think about, this is really important, what you appreciate about your partner that's related to it. And you think about times and places that are good to have this conversation. So I've thought about all of this. I'm taking the lead. I go find you. I look at you. You seem like I could probably get your attention. I say, hey, Evan. You say, yes, Sarah. Yay. And then I say, do you have a minute? Sure. And then I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start, listen to this. I'm going to start with my appreciation for you. Because that's going to keep us in that parasympathetic state. That's going to help you feel open and connected with me. It's going to make you feel more relaxed and I'll feel more relaxed. So I'm going to start with, something I appreciate. Hey, Evan, remember last month when we were talking about our business plans? You were such a great listener. I really appreciate that. I really love talking to you because you really listen to me so openly. So, even right now inside yourself, Evan, how did that feel to hear me say that?
Whatever you want to talk about, I'm open.
There you go. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, okay. Then I'm going to say, and I'd like to have more great conversations with you. So I was thinking I'd like to talk about how to set up conversations together. And I'm feeling, what am I feeling about it? I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling nervous. I'm like, whatever I'm feeling. And I'm kind of thinking that after dinner tonight might be a good time to talk, maybe in the living room. How about you, Evan? What's a good time for you? When is your energy going to be the best for a conversation like this? So my energy might peak after dinner, but you might be like, well, could we do it tomorrow after breakfast? That's when my energy is good. And we'll find a good time where our energy is best and where we won't be interrupted. We're not rushing around because all those things are stressful. So that's how we're continuing to set things up in as safe a way as possible. So, if you came back and said, well, how about tonight before we go to bed? I'm going to say, that doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Before I go to bed, I need a long wind down and I'm too tired and I'm not open anymore. Mm-hmm. So we really want to find when is both of our energies most likely to be at a good place for having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that it probably, go ahead.
No, please.
It probably depends on the type of conversation, how heavy the conversation is determines kind of like how much time is needed and how much space is needed. Is it a quick little, hey, can you do this on this day, is going to be different than I want to talk about the relationship.
Absolutely true. So that's why I recommend, the first thing that you talk about is your appreciation, but then the second thing is, what do we want to talk about? So mm-hmm. I want to really have a conversation about how we set up talking with each other so it's safe and coming to an understanding about what we mean. That could take maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, maybe, I don't know. But if I say, just like you said, or even simpler, hey, Evan, I want to show you something I saw on the news today. I just don't want to interrupt your flow. Maybe that's 2 minutes. you know, so you might say, tell me in 5 minutes, but if we're setting up an hour-long thing, then we know. But even so, if you want to share with me something that's in the news, I still want to have the right energy for that. You know, I don't want to be too distracted if it's the middle of my workday, for example.
Right. I love this. And I loved how you said, take the lead. Because I think that one of the major issues, and you can correct me, of course, you're the expert, in relationships is blame. And I know that I've kind of fallen into that as well. But if you start acting the way, oh, this will be a good question too, but if you start acting the way that you want to be treated, or you start putting your best foot forward, and you know, then it's on you. You're taking complete responsibility for how this relationship is going to be, and then I would imagine the partner is more likely to mirror that.
Ideally, your partner is going to mirror it, and you know, just as you brilliantly said, can we set it up together? Can we get on the same page with our expectations? But I don't want that to be the first conversation we have. Hey, Evan, I want to have a conversation about you not coming to me and, you know, interrupting me all the time. Like, right. Now you're feeling attacked. But yes, if I set the stage for a calm way to approach you, hopefully you'll feel better around me. But at some point we do want to address it explicitly and see, you know, how we can both agree to do it this way.
That's excellent. And so then in terms of, I've heard that treating somebody else the way that you want to be treated may not be necessarily the best way to go about it in your relationship, because they may have a different way that they want to be loved, like in things like the 5 love languages, which I'd be interested in your opinion. But like, how do you know, I'm still learning about my partner. We've been married for 15 years, and there's still things where I'm like, you know, I really want to support her in this moment, but I don't know how to do it. I know what I would want, but I'm not sure how to best serve her. So is there any guidance around that? Is love languages, is that a real thing? Is that something to study? What do you think?
Okay, what a rich question. So I think love languages is really pretty narrowly about expressing love, and it's not so much about communicating. So how do I feel love from you if I am a gift? I don't remember the gift type, what the name is for in the love languages framework, but if receiving a gift makes me feel loved by you, that's how I feel loved by you. But that doesn't have anything to do with communication. And it's a really important thing. Even for people who don't like to talk all that much, in my opinion, after more than 30 years working with couples, you have to talk at least some. So if I want to receive a gift from you to feel loved by you, I have to use words to tell that to you. There's no getting around it. You can't read my mind. And if I give you a gift, that doesn't mean that you know that I want a gift to feel loved by you. So I need to say, you know, I'll cut out all of the pre-steps, but if I would say, I need to say to you, Evan, I want to have a conversation about the way I feel loved. And then we set it up, and then we sit down, and I need to tell you, I feel loved when you give me gifts. That's how I feel loved. There's not a way without words. So that's how I see the love languages, you know, or the acts of service. Like if you take my car in to be washed and detailed, I'm going to just think you're the greatest person and that you must really cherish me. But you're not going to know that until I tell you. But now here's an example that came up with me just very recently. So my middle son, he's 26, and he moved in with me for a few months to launch his own entrepreneurial endeavor. I'm so proud of him. And I wanted to talk with him about something. So I followed my steps, and I, found a time he looked like I could talk to him, and I started launching I started launching into saying, I want to talk about whatever. And he interrupted me and he said, I want you to text me. If you want to talk, send me a text and tell me what you want to talk about. So I needed to know that. I think that my method of going in the room and looking at you or looking at my son, does he seem approachable? To me, that's ideal. But when he said to me, I need a text, I can do that. So now I think carefully about the text, and when is a good time to send the text? I'm not going to send him the text when he's probably still asleep in the morning. He probably doesn't want to see that first thing when he wakes up. So even so, when am I going to send the text and how do I frame it? And then I say, I'd like to talk about, do we want to have dinner together this weekend or something like that, whatever it is. So he shared with me how he wanted it, but there's still words and it's still communication. So I teach this out loud method. But yes, you and your partner can sit down and tailor it to the two of you. Maybe it's texts, maybe it's Post-it notes, maybe it's emails, but it's still, you're thinking it through, you're taking the lead and creating safety.
Mm-hmm. I love how respectful that is, where your mode of communication is not necessarily the right mode, right? And especially it's hard with our children. Where our children
Yes.
are, putting up boundaries or saying, hey, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And there's a lot of parents and grandparents who say, oh, but, like they're dismissing, unfortunately, these boundaries that these little people are, or not so little anymore, are putting up. And so it seems like that's sort of back and forth respect, whether it's with a partner or whether it's with a child or a parent or whatever it is, that seems to be an important part of this. Is that right?
Completely, Evan. And I'm glad you brought that up. What I teach is geared toward couples, but it's any person that you are in relationship enough to speak to. Do you want the other person to be receptive to you? Then you have to keep it safe. You both have to be in a parasympathetic state. You can't start out by attacking them or blaming them or startling them or interrupting them. It's not going to go well, whoever they are.
Mm-hmm. And then holding space. So when you're in that conversation, so you get into that conversation, you both have agreed upon the time and the place and all that. Are there certain things that can allow for you to stay in that parasympathetic, especially if it's some sort of contentious subject?
Okay, so if you're talking about something that is contentious, I recommend, so yeah, we've set it up. Let's say it's you and I, and we agree we're going to talk tonight after dinner. Let's say that's 7 o'clock. At 20 of 7 or quarter of 7, I'm going to go either meditate or take a hot shower or, whatever I'm going to do, pet the cat, pet the dog, to get myself as relaxed as possible. So if we know the plan is to talk about something that's challenging, let's get as calm as possible going into it. And, talking about agreements, let's have an agreement that if it starts to escalate, we'll take a break and we'll calm down and we'll reschedule. We don't take a break in order to avoid it and cut off conversation and never deal with it. We're taking a break in order to calm down. So while we're talking, I teach, and I really do recommend the kind of speaker-listener pattern. And the speaker-listener pattern isn't how we normally talk. When we're just chatting, we tend to kind of interrupt each other. We talk over each other, or, you'll start to tell me something that happened and I'm like, yeah, that same thing happened to me. But when we are setting up a conversation that's, it's important, we really want to have it go well, and I'm going to interrupt myself and let's come right back to this, Evan. When you're talking with somebody, I recommend that the first goal is that you two develop an understanding of where each other is coming from, and that the first goal is not problem solving. So this is really important. Most of the conversations we have, I think, are just either conveying information or solving a problem. You know, if it's as simple as where should we go for dinner tonight, you know, it's solving a problem. I recommend that the goal is to understand each other. So back to what I was saying, the speaker and listener roles, I want to understand you and how you see this and what your values are, what your thoughts and beliefs are, what your feelings are. I want to be able to have a picture in my mind as clear as can be. This is how Evan sees that. And, you know, in my experience, the best way to do that is if I settle into a listener role and you're the speaker. And my role is to maybe ask some gentle clarifying questions, but I'm not going to debate or be a devil's advocate or, you know, ask that kind of question like, I don't remember what this is called, but don't you think that this other thing is better? You know, shouldn't you do it this way instead? No, I want to, you know, let's say we're talking about dinner. You know, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? And tell me about that. Like, so I want to know if you say the name of this restaurant, it's because they have this soup and my throat hurts and I want a really nice soup like that so my throat feels better. Oh my gosh, I have a clear idea of why. It's not just, I want to go there. Well, I barely know anything, but now, like, because they have this soup, my throat hurts, you know, now I understand more about like where you're coming from and who you are. So within that speaker listener format, there's a couple of pieces that are very valuable. The first is repeating back what you hear from time to time. So this tiny example I just made up out of the blue, if I say, okay, Evan, I just want to make sure I got this right. You want to go to that place on the corner because you're in the mood for their soup because it'll help your throat feel better. Did I get that right? And there's several functions for doing that. One is it makes sure we are on the same page, that what you thought came out of your mouth is what I think I heard. But also it's going to help you feel seen and heard and understood by me. It's going to help you feel that openness to this conversation. It's going to help you feel like I'm interested in you. I want to know you and I'm knowing you. So that part, repeat back every now and again what you think you're hearing and don't fill in the blanks. You want to go to that place in the corner because your mother used to make that soup. You didn't say that. It might have nothing to do with that. What you said is it's going to make your throat feel better. So, and then the other thing that a listener does is to validate. And validating the other person is essentially saying either word for word or some form of this, it makes sense to me if I were in your shoes, if I was literally Evan and I was seeing the world through your eyes, given that you have a sore throat and given that you've always wanted soup when you have a sore throat, it sure makes sense to me that you want to go to the place on the corner and get their soup tonight. So what I'm not doing is I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not telling you anything about what I think about soup or colds or restaurants or anything. I'm saying you make sense. You make sense for who you are, and I get it. So those two pieces, repeating back and validating, again, this helps us so stay in the parasympathetic state. If someone was tracking me so well. They're repeating what I said accurately, and then they validate that what I said makes sense for who I am. You will literally see, you'll be able to see the relief, you know, pour down the person you're talking to. You'll be able to see it. They'll be like, yes, and you get it. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I can see how this would help to decrease a lot of stress. I'm gonna try these techniques with my own partner, my own family. So thank you. So let's transition a little bit as we come to the end here. I'd love to hear more about your course. So I know that it's coming up, right? It hasn't launched yet. It's very close to being launched. And I'd love for you to share what that's about with our audience.
Yes. So this first course that I've made, I designed this to be the fundamental building blocks for good communication. So everything that I'm going to offer after this is going to build on these essential building blocks. So I go into much greater depth what we've talked about today. So, you know, I really explain about, you know, how the parasympathetic state is so important. I talk about how to get your partner's attention. And I go into each piece step by step very clearly. The course is presented with many very short bite-sized videos. So you can, if you need a refresher, you can go just back to that one part and hear that part again. And it builds on itself, and it's a resource so that you can go back and refresh your memory. You know, like, I don't remember the validating thing. What's that all about? And you can go back and watch that. You know, Evan, where this came from is telling couples in my private practice, not only teaching the same thing over and over and over and over to different couples, but having to teach it to the same couple many times, you know, to say, okay, guys, let's circle back around. Remember when I was teaching you about this 2 months ago? Well, they don't remember, right? And so I really wanted and am, I developed this resource where you can refresh your memory over and over again. So it's a course that you can take. You can take it by yourself. You can take it with your romantic partner. You can take it with any other person, as I said earlier, with whom you're in a relationship that you need to communicate with. If you're in a relationship, you can take it by yourself to get the skills to ask your partner, would you like to take this with me? You know, so if you're unsure, like, I think my partner will say, no, I don't want to do that thing, and I don't know how to bring it up. Start the course by yourself and learn how to ask for what you need. And actually, you get a sign in, and then if you, in the beginning, you let me know in a little questionnaire if you want your partner to take it too, and then they get their own sign in as well. That's included in the course. So, you know, it's just, here's how to have a safe, focused, calm, connected conversation, start to finish.
Excellent. That's very exciting. And so when is that launching, or has it already launched?
Well, it's live and ready to go, but, you know, Evan, you and I are in the same business community of building our health businesses. You know, my big formal launch hasn't happened yet, but the course is ready. It's, you know, it's ready to go. So it's available, and I will give you all the links you need for your people. Wonderful.
Yeah, and we'll drop them below in the description. And then you also have a free gift for our audience, which is the quiz. And the quiz is called, what's the quiz called?
It's called the Couples Communication Quiz. And, you know, having heard this podcast, when you take the questions of the quiz, you'll already recognize what are some of the things I'm asking right there in the quiz. You'll be like, oh, she mentioned this, she mentioned this. And then your score will be from like which of 5 doors Is your communication, is it closed? Is it guarded? All the way to, is it open? And then you learn a little bit more about your score. And the gift that I give you is a wonderful 8-page ebook that goes into what we've talked about today and, into what I do in the course, but it's just a PDF ebook. And it's super helpful.
Excellent. And I took the quiz and I was very impressed with the information that I learned. So I definitely recommend that people go ahead and click on that link below and take the quiz.
Awesome.
So great. Anything else that you want to share with us? I guess people can find you at couplescommunicationinstitute.com. We'll put that below. Any last words before we adjourn?
Yes. So I was talking about appreciation in the context of approaching your partner, but I want to encourage everyone every day to be watching your partner for something that you appreciate about them, or thinking in the past about something from the past that you appreciate about them, and then let them know. Either say it out loud or send them a text, or however it is, but every day you have to look for and let them know something that you appreciate about them. This is such a gift, to feel seen, to feel known, to feel cherished. And, if you're a little bit distant from each other, this just really starts to bring you closer to each other.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that's probably a great tip for all of our relationships, right? Not just with our partners. I was thinking about, gosh, I should be doing that with my daughter.
Right? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. And thanks so much for sharing all this great information with our tribe.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much, Evan.
I hope you learned something on today's podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful for getting this information out to more fatigued people who desperately need it. Sharing all the experts I know and love and the powerful tips I have on fatigue is one of my absolute favorite things to do. If you'd like more information, please sign up for my newsletter, where I share all important facts and information about fatigue, from the foods and supplements to the programs and products that I use personally and recommend to others so that they can live their best lives. Just go to fixyourfatigue.com/newsletter to sign up, and I will send you this great information. Thanks for being part of my community. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. It is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help with your fatigue, you can visit my website and work with us at fixyourfatigue.com. And remember, it's important that you have someone in your corner who is a credentialed healthcare professional to help you make changes. This is very important, especially when it comes to your health. Thanks for listening, and have an amazing day.